Good evening. I'm really excited to be here this evening, and since it's a kind of a small group, let's just acknowledge that. Of course, you are United Methodist. You're all sitting in the last row as far back as you can, which is a good thing. I guess you're staying true to the faith. But I'm just excited to be here and to share a little bit this evening about the work that we are doing. And since it is a small group, I'm going to do a few things here, show kind of a video, and then walk through some of the ministries one by one that you maybe have seen in the video that we're doing. And I would welcome at that point in time, if you've got a question about something, just yell it out, and that way when I'm done, we'll be done, and we can kind of just keep moving on after that. So, but I'm excited to be here. I want to start out by thanking you as a church and a congregation for supporting the ministry and work that we do. You have done that for almost 6 years. We were what I call a crazy dream 6 years ago. God just kind of planted this idea in my heart that maybe we could go to Guatemala and start a ministry that would make a difference to the people there. And I guess the lesson I've learned over the past 6 years is that God is able to dream far bigger than I'm able to dream. And so what I'm going to share with you this evening has all occurred over the past 6 years with the idea of opening just a small medical clinic. That was our goal, just to open a small medical clinic, and from there all of that I'm going to share with you blossomed. The first thing I want to ask though is, honestly, who knows where Guatemala is? Where Guatemala is located? That's pretty good, actually. Most people know it's like somewhere down there. It's just down there somewhere. Our knowledge of Central and South America many times ends at Mexico. But let me just share with you kind of a map here so you can get an idea of where Guatemala is in case you're not aware of it. But it borders Mexico. And in fact, if you could board a direct flight from Indianapolis to Guatemala City, it would be closer than flying Indianapolis to Los Angeles. So it's not all that far away. When I went to Guatemala in December of 2008, I actually drove there in my minivan with the last of my belongings. It is not the most intelligent thing I have done in my life, but I will affirm that it is a doable thing. So what I have for you now is I just want to share with you kind of a video that a student from Baldwin-Wallace University put together for us last summer that gives an overview of our ministry and the work that we do, and probably in 2 minutes does a better job of what I could talk for in 20 minutes in sharing and show some pictures. But then I'll go through some individual things after the video that are mentioned there kind of quickly, and interrupt me, as I said, as I go, if you've got any questions. But let me share this video with you.
Mission Guatemala is a faith-based nonprofit working to improve the quality of life and meet the basic needs of the 19 rural communities that form the municipality of San Andres Semitaba, about 70 miles outside of Guatemala City. Since our founding in September 2010, Mission Guatemala has focused on working in the areas of health, nutrition, and education. To help people have access to quality health care, Mission Guatemala operates a general medical clinic, pharmacy, an eye clinic, and a dental clinic, all of which are open to the public. These services offer affordable and respectful quality care to each patient from any community with access to low-cost medicines. Families often struggle to provide the nutrition necessary for the proper growth and development for their children. Mission Guatemala is working to help address this issue by building kitchens in public schools to help facilitate healthy and sanitary food preparation. Mission Guatemala also administers a full-time lunch program in the community of Nueva Esperanza and a snack program in the community of Chipec, which provide healthy and nutritious meals daily. The Como Saludable program, which provides a healthy lunch in 11 communities twice a month, in addition to the lunch and snack programs, are built on a model of community collaboration, with Mission Guatemala purchasing the food and supplies for the meals in the local markets, and mothers and members of the various communities being responsible for the food preparation. Mission Guatemala has also focused on supporting the public education system. We provide school supplies, educational materials, and scholarships, as well as access to a computer lab. In addition, Mission Guatemala has completed construction projects such as building classrooms, bathrooms, and hand-washing sinks in the area schools to ensure the children have the resources to practice proper hygiene. Mission Guatemala's community development projects help give towns the tools to sustain themselves By providing local families and schools with water filters, we can ensure that entire households have access to safe water for drinking and cooking. Well-designed and efficient stoves in schools and homes use less wood and vent smoke out of their indoor areas. The construction of playgrounds, soccer fields, and basketball courts in community schools give children a safe place to exercise and to learn new sports. Mission Guatemala has been able to positively impact the communities of San Andreas Semitaba by providing access to quality health care, nutritious meals, and educational opportunities to the Guatemalan people. We work with the leadership and individuals of each community to find meaningful, long-lasting solutions. Mission Guatemala is supported by donations and by volunteer mission teams. So we hope you'll join us to do all the good you can as we work to serve our friends and neighbors here in Guatemala.
So the first thing I want to share with you, and it's kind of the basis of everything that we do, was the beginning of everything that we do now, is that we focus, one of our primary focuses is on healthcare. And our first thing that we did when we started Mission Guatemala, it was really our main goal, was to open a small medical clinic to try to meet the needs of the indigenous Mayan people there. The top two reasons, health-related reasons, people die in Guatemala, the top two are diarrhea and pneumonia. And that is simply because they don't have access to good medical care to prevent those totally preventable things from happening. So we operate a medical clinic now, which was how we started in the Highlands. We're open 5 days a week. We have an indigenous Guatemalan doctor who sees patients. We have a philosophy in almost everything we do that everybody needs to have a little skin in the game, so to speak. And so we do charge a small fee for patients to come into our clinic to see the doctor. We're a private clinic with a private doctor. We ask people to pay 10 quetzales, which is just over $1, to come in and have a consultation with the doctor. That's 10 quetzales. If they went to a private doctor anywhere else around, it would be 120 quetzales. So the people immediately see there is a value there to be able to see a private doctor for that amount. In any medicines that they need, we charge a small fee for that as well. That's about 20 quetzales, so about $2 or so for not just any single medicine, but for the complete set of medicines they might need. So they've got some financial investment in the process, and they're going to listen to what the doctor says and follow those instructions. Probably one of the biggest things about our clinic is that we do have a pharmacy and we have medicines there. A lot of times in Guatemala, it is possible to get access to a doctor who will confirm, yes, you are sick. But then, what about getting the medicines that you need to help make you well again? And we have a totally well-stocked pharmacy there, and we do our medicines in a variety of ways. We have a couple of churches back in the United States that periodically have over-the-counter medicine drives for us to collect basic over-the-counter type medicines that we need and will use. And there's one church, Newburgh United Methodist Church down in Newburgh, Indiana, makes our clinic their international mission focus. And so they send us somewhere around $6,000 a year that we can use to buy pharmaceutical medicines right in country there. So we've got a well-stocked pharmacy to meet the needs of people, which is a pretty big deal because, again, once you find out you're sick, getting access to the medicine you need to make you better becomes a whole nother thing. After we opened the medical clinic, we began to look at the people around us and noticed that there was a lot of rotten teeth everywhere we looked. Dental care is not a high priority there, and so we opened a dental office just a few months later, and that is open 2 to 3 days a week, just depending on when we can get our dentist in there, Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday time. And we see people and provide dental care for them as well. Probably the most exciting thing is about 2 years ago, I got contacted by a young optometrist graduating optometry school out of Memphis, Tennessee. And she said, hey, could you all use an eye doctor there? And we said, sure. And let's talk about that. And we had a conversation, and that grew. And Alicia and her husband Kim came down to begin to work with us. And we have a full-blown eye clinic now with an optometrist. All of the equipment that eye doctors use. Which is better? Number one, number two. All of that, all the things. And we have also a complete set of eyeglass frames. She has gotten donated probably $10,000 to $15,000 worth of eyeglass frames that are quote unquote seconds, by the eyeglass manufacturers. Well, actually, I'm wearing a pair of them right now. These glasses are from our eye clinic in Guatemala. I just challenge you to find something wrong with those frames. And then we work with a lab in Guatemala City to actually make lenses that fit the actual prescription that people need. So with the donations of the eye equipment and the small cost of getting the lenses made, we can get people in a $100 pair of glasses, even in Guatemala, for about $8 to $9. Probably the most exciting thing to me is, you've got an older woman or an older man who goes in to see Alicia, who has never really seen clearly their whole life. And she checks their eyes and finds out they just need a pair of glasses. And they come back a week later when their glasses are there and put them on, and the whole world comes into focus, and their faces grin and they giggle, and they just can't believe they see the world at that point in their life in just a whole different way. It's really exciting. Again, if you got any questions, just kind of throw them out. I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads, so that makes me know you're still awake. That's good. The other thing that we decided we were going to try to focus on after we began to focus on health issues, and I would say this coming year, between the medical clinic, the dental clinic, and the eye clinic, we'll probably have about 5,000 patients through our clinics this year. But one of my biggest passions is hunger. And Guatemala is one of the hungriest places in the world. Guatemala ranks 4th in the world, according to the United Nations World Food Program, 4th in the world for chronic child malnutrition. Roughly 50% of the children that we work with on a daily basis are chronically malnourished. And chronically malnourished simply means they're not growing at the rate and pace that they should be growing for normal growth. It's not the malnourished where you see the extended stomachs and just, it's clearly that you will talk to a child that you're pretty sure is 7 years old and you discover they're 12. They don't look as old as they really are because they haven't had the proper nutrition. So we operate a number of feeding programs now, and it gets complicated to explain what they all are because they all have different twists and turns to them based on what community they're in and how they function. But I will say in short, we do about 2,000 meals a week now for chronically malnourished children. And we do that, as you saw in the video, through buying food from the local markets. So all of the vendors and farmers and sellers in the local market benefit financially from us buying the food there that we use in our feeding programs. We require, remember, people have to have skin in the game. So we require the communities where we have these feeding programs, if they want to have them, they have to turn out mothers who will help, or fathers, but it's usually mothers, will turn out mothers who will help come in and prepare the lunches and the meals under our instruction and direction to be served to the children in that community. They may not be able to afford the food to do that, but they have the time. And so we're asking for their sweat equity to go into this program to help provide meals for children. Sadly, there are a couple of villages where we have closed down the feeding programs and the food programs because the mothers in the community do not want to participate in that way, and we just feel like we're not helping them any by just giving a handout, but they need to help participate in the process as well. So we do about 2,000 meals a week. I don't have a picture of it, but about a year and a half ago, the other thing I'll share with you is we started a program, a special feeding program for children that are 6 months to 6 years of age. Our current feeding programs are for school-age children, and we work with the schools on that. But the first 1,000 days of a child's life are the most critical days of their life. It is the only time in a person's life, that first 1,000 days, that they will double in height. And so getting proper nutrition during that period of time is critical. And so we've partnered with an organization called the Mateel Institute out of Dayton, Ohio, with a food product they've developed for children of that age, specifically for Guatemala. It is a food product. It's a special drink that Guatemalans are used to drinking. So it's not like you're trying to introduce some kind of new food into the mix that people don't want to have. It's something they want to have and want to drink. That we've got a group of 50 children that have been on this for about a year and a half now, and it is absolutely amazing seeing the difference that it's making, especially when you compare them to their brothers and sisters that were not initially on that program. The cases of diarrhea are just totally gone. Cases of anemia are gone. Mothers, and just the anecdotal evidence, mothers who would say, my child just used to sleep every afternoon for 3 hours because they didn't have enough energy to play and do. And it's just like, now I wish they would go to sleep. They're playing and active and doing all these things. In fact, we had a lot of mothers who were reluctant to participate in the program because we required them to let us do a finger stick blood test on their child, and some of them were just like, you're not sticking my child's finger and getting a drop of blood. We're just not going to let that happen. About 2 or 3 months into the program, they saw the other children that were in the program, they would be together with those mothers and their kids, and just the difference in their child who was the same age as the other person's child. And so we had those mothers coming back to us saying, it's okay, we want to be part of this. We want this to happen. So it's just really exciting to see that difference. The other area that we chose to focus on was health, nutrition, and education. And so we do a lot of work to support the community schools. We work in about 19 communities now in the area that we are function out of in Guatemala. And in many cases, we do school supplies at the beginning of the school year so students can have the supplies they need to be able to learn. We believe one of the keys to raising any community, any country, any place out of poverty is education, to have a well-educated group of people. We've seen first grade classrooms sit still because they didn't have pencils. And so, we've just promised ourselves that we're not going to let that continue to happen. School is mandatory in Guatemala through 6th grade. And after 6th grade, it's totally optional. But there's a lot of bright kids that want to continue on in school, and their family simply does not have the means to help them do that. It's about $25 a month, we figured, on average, for most kids to continue on in school, because even at the public junior highs, they are basicos, is what they call them, the junior high age schools. They have fees and certain requirements in that aren't provided as part of the government fee. For kids to be in school, and families just don't have that money. It's kind of like here, education in Indiana is supposed to be free and all that, but you got to rent those textbooks, and so that's a significant amount of money for a lot of families. So right now, we started a scholarship program about 3 years ago. Right now we have, this is our first group of scholarship students, but right now we have about 30 kids in the scholarship program, and this next year we're going to double that number. We're going to have somewhere in the area of 60 to 65 kids in the scholarship program. These students are selected by being nominated by the teachers in their classroom as the best and brightest of the students who want to continue on in school. and we do an interview with them with our social workers. We go check out their homes to make sure there really is a need there, and we're just excited about that. One of the things I'm most excited about, I don't know if you can tell real well in the picture up there, but the majority of the students in our program now are young women, which is really exciting because they're the ones who most likely, the family would not invest money in to continue on in school, because after you finish 6th grade, it's time to learn how to clean the house and make tortillas and sew things and to do that. So we're really excited about the number of young women that are in the program. A couple more quick things and I'll wrap it up. One of the things we take for granted in the United States is that we can go home, turn on the faucet, put a cup under it, get a drink of water, and use that water to cook with or whatever. Most of the rest of the world, especially the developing world, does not have that luxury. The water is not treated. And in many cases, it's taken out of streams and rivers where something upstream and upriver has polluted it and caused problems. And so we started a water filter program, and that's what we're delivering here to a school. So each classroom in the school has a water filter to use for students, and we've even given them to entire families in villages so that they can have access to clean water to drink with. One of our first early on programs, and we've kind of pulled back on it, I think maybe Gary's delivered one or two of these, but the other thing we've also gotten into doing, because it's very health related, is providing fuel efficient wood burning stoves for people's homes. Most of the rest of the world cooks with wood. They don't have electric stove or gas stove or whatever to turn on, especially the developing world. And what these stoves do are basically replace a small campfire that's on the floor in the corner of people's homes. Now imagine if you would start a small campfire in the corner of your house. What would happen? The house would begin to be filled with smoke, and it would be, even if you kind of tried to keep it contained, there's going to be smoke that's going to go, and you begin to breathe that in. Many of these homes that cook like that, when you walk into the home, you just want to turn around and walk out. I mean, you're overcome with that smoke smell. Now imagine you're a mother cooking over that fire with the baby on your back, and the baby's beginning to breathe all of that in. So these fuel-efficient wood-burning stoves go into the home. There's a pipe that goes up to the ceiling. We cut a small hole in the ceiling of the house and vent the smoke out of the house. And because they're specially engineered, they use a lot less wood than a campfire would end up using. So it saves on the energy to go find wood and to do that. So anyway, that's another one of the programs that we've done. I guess lastly, the most significant thing that we do, or that your church is probably aware of, is that we do host teams from the United States that come down to work with us in our community development projects. And again, in those community development projects, we expect the community to have some sweat equity in these projects as well. I think our first year when we started Mission Guatemala, our goal was to have 8 groups from the United States come down to work with us in 2011. And we had about 12 come down that year. Right now on our calendar at any given point in time, we probably annually have 40 to 45 groups a year coming down to work with us, over 600 volunteers. It is, as I was telling Bert, earlier during dinner, I've never had anybody say to me, "Wow, that was just a wasted week of my life." People that come down, they're really, their eyes are open and their lives are transformed because they realize, the rest of the world, even though the rest of the world isn't like Indianapolis. And even though you kind of know it in your head, to be able to experience it, firsthand is really life-changing. And here they're constructing a community kitchen that will be used to prepare food for children in the school and for community things. But we even do things as simple as produce hand washing sinks that can be used at schools. We've gone into schools that have 300 children and 2 faucets in the entire school, and then they try to teach kids, use soap and water to wash your hands, it'll help prevent disease. Well, it would take half a day to get 300 kids through the 2 faucets at a school. So we make large hand washing sinks to kind of provide that. God has just like richly blessed us beyond our wildest dreams. We simply started out 6 years ago to have a small medical clinic to improve the lives of people, and the next thing we know, we've got 45 groups a year coming down and projects transforming villages and feeding children and transforming the lives of families and with children and children themselves, and providing clean drinking water, and just having an impact on hundreds upon hundreds of people and hundreds upon hundreds of families as well. And it's just been a very amazing journey. But I guess the thing I will say, kind of in wrapping up here, it's kind of the sermon I've been preaching lately when I've been preaching in churches. But God will never call you to anything without equipping you with the things you need to make things happen. Sometimes I've discovered I wish God would provide the equipping a little bit sooner than God does, but God knows the right time to provide those things. And most of all, the thing I've been most certain of is every step of the way God has journeyed with us, that we've never been alone, and God has always been there in the midst of chaos, in the midst of confusion, in the midst of uncertainty, and God has been with us. So that's kind of our story in a nutshell, and I could probably talk for another 2.5 hours about any one of these specific things, but are there any questions anybody has that I didn't give a chance to?
Could you tell us about the spiritual education that you have down there?
The question was about spiritual education that we have down there. I kind of have called our ministry a Matthew 25 ministry. It is what we try to focus on. In Matthew 25, Jesus says, when you fed the hungry, when you took care of the sick, when you provided these things, you did it to me. So directly spiritual related things have not been our primary focus. We've basically tried to care for bodies, as best we can. Now, after saying that, I will say almost every team that comes down, or a lot of the teams that come down, we do vacation Bible schools and vacation Bible school activities in the villages where we work. And we are partners with the National Methodist Church of Guatemala in the work we do, and we make a financial donation back to the National Methodist Church to help them with some of their evangelism efforts that they do there. A lot of research has been done, and it would be my firsthand experience as well, that ministry, especially spiritual type ministry, is really best done Guatemalan to Guatemalan rather than from white North Americans coming down there, and so we fund the church there to help them in those efforts as well. It's no secret though that we're faith. I mean, we've got a cross on our logo, and everybody knows people are there from churches doing the work. We don't hide that, but it's just not been our focus.
What are you doing to help them become self-sufficient?
That is an excellent question. Let me tell you, I'll tell you the road we're heading down on doing that. I mean, the reality is, at this point, we're just trying to help people survive, I guess, to say that. But this past year, and I wish I had a picture of it. I do have one, I just don't have it in this presentation because there's so many things. But this past year, we've started a vocational training school so that people can learn a trade or a marketable skill that they can then take and use to provide income and money for their family. You saw, I think, briefly in the video there, but we've started a computer lab that we do with the local junior high. But next year, we're going to start having classes for adults on how to use computers and how to type and how to use to use those in a way that they might be able to get a job in an office and to make a living there, because people are always looking for people with those skills. We also, this past year, started sewing classes. We have our first 15 students in sewing classes that are learning how to sew, to make things, to repair things, to fix things, which again is a marketable skill. Skill there.
Do they have to leave their community to do that?
The answer is sort of yes during the day, but they should be able to return to the community. It's not unusual for people to get up early and take an hour bus ride to get to a larger populated area and to be able to work there. And that we've looked into some things like cooperative farming and those type of things. But if you've, as Gary could probably tell you, if you've been there, the highlands of Guatemala, it's just a very difficult place to farm, and so you'll see farming on hillsides, kind of going down. But in the cases of farming, in many cases, there's just not enough land, available to do that. But it's a big issue that's been on our hearts, is to figuring out how we can do to make things more sustainable for people. The one thing we're going to do for our sewing students, they don't know this yet, so if you know any of our sewing students, don't tell them. But that's kind of a joke. But we're going to give them at the end of this month, I think, when they graduate their sewing program, if they stuck with it through the whole year and done everything they were supposed to do, and that at graduation, we're going to give each of them a sewing machine. Because it didn't make a lot of sense to us that they've learned how to do this skill, yet they don't have the device upon which to do it. So they've stuck with it. They've worked hard. They've mastered an art. So we're gonna try to provide to them that piece of equipment that they need then to go ahead and be successful. And that, did I see another hand? Electricity is not a big issue in Guatemala. Most places do have electricity, and electricity is available. But I will give you, for instance, yesterday in the area that we are, there was a notice that was given the day before, and then the electricity was out for 9 hours. So, but everybody knew it was coming and going to be out. And they generally do that when they're doing some kind of major repair. They'll just shut down half the country and change the light bulb, I guess. I don't know what goes, how that functions, but I just sit there and think that would never work in the United States. Could you imagine, I don't know, is it Duke Energy here, or who's the, yeah, could you imagine them just shutting down Indianapolis for half a day? We need to do some repairs, we're closing down. Yeah.
What's the political atmosphere in Guatemala? Is that an issue?
What's the political atmosphere in Guatemala, and is that an issue for us? I kind of grinned as you asked that question, because the cast of characters in this election in the United States for president was not unlike the cast of characters in the Guatemala. How much this presidential election resembles a Guatemala presidential election scares me quite a bit. The political situation, though, there is fairly stable. Guatemala has one of the issues we deal with, I didn't even get into this, but Guatemala had one of the longest civil wars in the world. It lasted almost 30 years and ended in 1995 with the peace accords being signed. But the government has really, a new constitution was put into place, and the government has really been pretty stable since the mid-90s. We don't have any kind of issues with the government there, and in fact, with the local governments, we're in very good stead, very good terms with them. We're making a difference in the communities. So anytime there's a ribbon cutting on anything, even though we don't necessarily invite him, the mayor will show up, at that ribbon cutting and want to have a few words to say, usually thanking us for the work that we've done. Early on, we didn't want to put signs on projects or things that we had did, because we didn't feel like it was important that we took credit, for doing that. But we discovered if we don't do that, the mayor is going to take credit for having that built or whatever, and we want people to know the truth behind that. But in general, politicians are politicians everywhere. Politically, the country is really pretty stable. They've successfully transitioned, presidents and everything. Interestingly, a president can only serve one 4-year term, and they cannot ever be succeeded, once someone has served as president, no member of their immediate family can ever run for president there. This is kind of an interesting thing. challenge. They thought that Constitution through when they did so. Well, listen, I want to thank you all for being good listeners and being interested or acting interested, at least, this evening. And it's always a delight to be here at Castleton. Bert's a great friend. Billy's a great friend, and I'm just real happy that I could be here and share some with you this evening. So. And it looks like, it's still raining. I was going to say, I was trying to maybe make it through the rain, but.
Or you were going to get the cars for it?
I will give someone the keys to my car if they want to go fetch it for me. Yeah.
I know we have at least one or two Stephen ministers here. I know Gary is. I'm still learning who is. Gary, come on up. We're going to, and Gary is one of the Stephen ministers, and I are going to lay hands on Tom for his continued ministry. It is a great success story. I'm like Gary. I'm one who has been there and seen what a great work it is, and it is just phenomenal how they have changed lives there in Guatemala. And so I, like this Gary, have seen the lives changed and the children that are fed and the children that are learning. And the communities, the communities we worked in the week I was there, folks would just come up to you and try to, in their broken English, of course they could say our language better than we could say theirs, so try to say thank you and expressions of gratitude. So Tom is one of those guys who sold out for Jesus, and I'm so grateful he is. So I want to close, I'll close with a prayer for him and also a blessing for us. So let's pray. Lord, thank you for your servant Tom, who so many years ago heard that strange call out in the wilderness, come out from the comfort of Indiana, come out from the comfort of Evansville and come to a place where there is no comfort, where there is so much hardship. And you've called this faithful servant, and he said, "Here am I, Lord, send me to Guatemala." And so he's been there. He'll be returning next week. Grant him safety as he travels. Continue to pour out your mercy upon him as he leads this extraordinary ministry. And we thank you for all those from Castleton who have been a part of Mission Guatemala, either by attending or by giving or by our prayers. And so in all these ways, oh God, we give you thanks. We're just so grateful that you touch our hearts. We're grateful for all the food and everything we've enjoyed this night, knowing that there are people in other parts of the world who haven't had a meal, and so help us to remember that we are to be your hands and feet. So bless Tom and Dave in their ministry with Mission Guatemala. Bless us and send us home with your mercy and peace in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Well, thank you all for coming, and we're glad you're here. Pray for Tom. He's got to drive back to Evansville tomorrow to catch a plane in the morning, so pray for Tom as he drives back in this, I don't know if you've noticed, but all the time you've been speaking, can you see the rain coming down there?
Oh, yeah. I heard the thunder, too.
Yeah, you heard it, so there's great. Well, I don't know, are there any announcements I need to make? Anybody know of anything? It's Wednesday, Sunday's coming. We'll see you Sunday at church. Thank you, and go in peace.